This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight now, we bring you a special discussion on International Day of Persons with Disabilities, government initiatives for the empowerment and welfare of persons with disabilities. The participants are Dr. Himanshu Das, Director, National Institute for Empowerment of Persons with Visual Disability, and V. Ravi Kumar, AIR Correspondent.
Today is the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. Consider the following statistics put out by the United Nations. The world population just now crossed 8 billion people, and more than 1 billion people of those, or approximately 15% of the world's population, live with some form of disability. 80% of persons with disabilities live in developing countries. More than 100 million disabled persons are children, and 50% of disabled persons cannot afford health care. Dr. Das, let's begin by understanding how a person with disability is defined by the Indian government and what percentage of the Indian population is considered having disabilities.
As per the RPWD Act 2016, the disability that we define in India can be categorized under three categories. One is the word disability itself. Second is the benchmark disability category. And the third is the category of high support need. So any person having some kind of a disorder or disability can be referred to as a person with disability. He may have a lot of constitutional rights, but he is not entitled for benefits, concessions, scholarships, and reservations. So when you refer to the word 40% and above disability, then we use the word benchmark disability. That group is entitled for all the benefits, concessions, scholarships, and reservations. Third category is the high support need category, wherein we defined as that category of disability who is most likely to be dependent either intellectually or physically or for activities of daily living on somebody throughout their lifetime. The third category is referred to as high support need category.
And all these categories together, what percentage of the Indian population would that be?
It's very difficult. We say, colloquially, we are trying to say it is 2%. WHO says it is over maybe 10% around. Many of the developing countries gives us a statistics of about 5%. We're not very sure after this new NSSO study that will be coming 2 years, we'll be able to know. But combining all together as a professional, I can say it will not be below maybe 4%.
So disability inclusion is an essential condition to upholding human rights, sustainable development, and peace and security. It is also central to the promise of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development to leave no one behind. Dr. Das, at the macro strategic level, what has the Indian government done to ensure disability inclusion?
A lot of initiatives have been done. We had a machinery which was earlier focusing on services for persons with disabilities. Now the same machinery is gearing up, or new machineries are coming up which is focusing on inclusion, and more so inclusion in all-round development of persons with disabilities. So if you see in totality, we have got now 8 national institutes catering to different categories of disability and 1 sign language national institutes and 21 state level institutes by the name composite regional centers and a host of district disability rehabilitation center. We hope in coming 3-4 years, every district in India will have a district disability rehabilitation center. Apart from this, the central government has got a Rehabilitation Council of India that promotes professional training in the field of disability care and rehabilitation, a national trust that takes care of the high support need category, intellectual disability, autism, multiple disability and cerebral palsy. And we have got a dedicated banking service, National Handicap Finance and Development Corporation, that is moving towards financial and economic empowerment, and a PSU by the name Alinco, Artificial Limb Manufacturing Corporation of India, that is taking care of the assistive device part. And all this combined together, we have got a lot of schemes and provisions now being taken care of, which are directly or indirectly connecting to empowerment of persons with disabilities or inclusion of persons with disabilities. Say, for example, UDID card. Now, the whole government, in collaboration with all the states, is coming up with a smart card for persons with disabilities in the same line as other card by the name UDID card. Very successfully being implemented in many of the states. Only few states are not gearing up much. The ADIP scheme, Assistive Device Provision Scheme, is doing very well. And we have got an umbrella scheme by the name SIBDA to cater to all different categories which NGOs and government, state government can apply for different kind of grant. We have got a next generation program going on in the ministry, a special campaign for accessibility, Accessible India campaign launched, and a lot of buildings are now being taken up by the government for making them accessible, public building. Scholarship scheme is doing very well of the central government, including a post-matric to person getting scholarship studying abroad. Then very recently we have got a scheme coming up by the name Cross Disability Early Intervention Center, where any children having any kind of disorder, disability, or at risk for developing disability can get services from the Cross Disability Early Intervention Center. Now we have 7, but hopefully in coming 2-3 years, we will have many more across the country. Then also the scheme of TDRS that supports NGO, Deen Dayal Rehabilitation Scheme, has got a lot of projects under it, like special school, residential special school, so on and so forth. NGOs are most welcome to apply under the DDRS scheme for granting aid.
Persons with disabilities are often referred to as the world's largest minority, and they have generally poorer health, lower education achievements, fewer economic opportunities, and higher rates of poverty than people without disabilities. And this is largely due to lack of services available to them like information and communications technology, or justice, or even simple things like transportation, and the many obstacles they face in everyday lives. These obstacles can take a variety of forms, including those relating to physical environment, or those resulting from legislation or policy, or from societal attitudes or discrimination. So Dr. Das, tell us, what are the government initiatives in each of these areas to make the lives of persons with disabilities easier, or to remove what we call the barriers that typically makes their lives not very easy? You already listed some of them, but in this context, could you probably rephrase for us?
We have got a very robust act that you can say one of the best acts in the world is the RPWD Act that protects the rights of persons with disability in India. And further, if you see the system, we have got a Chief Commissioner for Persons with Disability office at the center to protect the rights of persons with disabilities. And every state will have further a State Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities. Now, what is happening is the act is in place, the implementation is a setback in many of the places. Only about last 6-7 years, the disability area has got a little bit more focus, and all the disabilities, because earlier there was only 7 disabilities, now we have got about 21 disabilities. Only last 7 years, this 21 disabilities have started getting attention. The country has to really revive and go a long way, and the NEP 2020 also has now geared up to take on the inclusive education aspects. The Health Ministry is also gearing up. The Mental Health Act is also gearing up. We understand that there are issues and challenges, but definitely we cannot blame on the policy level, because as per policy and the act, we have a robust act and a robust policy. Only 3 months back, the UGC has also come up with a very, very 360-degree accessibility policy for persons with disability for higher education and technical education. I think it is time that all the states starts implementing the state policies, and also in reference to having fund being allocated for the disabled population in every state in reference to the population, the percentage, etc.
Dr. Das, you mentioned that at the policy level seems to be quite robust at the moment, but there are a lot of things in implementation that needs to be done. And there are simple things like tactical level. So I was, when we travel by Delhi Metro, we are in Delhi, we have that tactile path, which is for persons with visual disability, which actually helps them. And even if you have simple things like tactile dot in the lift, which allows them to operate it. A lot of these tactical things, which like the tactile dots on remotes, which help people with disabilities. So at the policy level, you're saying we are quite robust, but at the implementation level, things need to be done. But move away from the strategic for a moment, go to the tactical. Share with us some of the tactical things done by the government in the field.
Basically, sir, these national institutes are basically the apex bodies in the particular domain of disability that you talk about. Say, my role as the director of the National Institute for Persons with Visual Disability has got a strategic role to play as regards technical input that is to be given to everyone. So when we talk of Election Commission of India, we have got a very, very strong liaising, and we're trying to make the election highly accessible for everyone. So every day we are at it. Similarly, all other departments need to converge with the expert bodies that we have in the country. Say the Intellectual Disability National Institute is in Secunderabad, the Multiple Disability is in Chennai, where I was the director earlier. So there need to be great convergence of different departments for sharing this technical expertise. We have come up with a sensitization and awareness program for different categories of government officials like teachers, principals, judiciary, police, etc. That scheme need to take off very well so that every state government can also adopt the scheme in a similar line and start training everyone around. And say Dehradun now, we have also developed a 360-degree accessibility training park where we wish to get all the IAS officers from the Mussoorie Academy and get them here for training and give them real-life orientation. Having said all this, we are also now thinking of coming up with empathy engineering modules, because a lot of lectures, workshop, conference and training goes on, but without empathetic understanding of officials, at the time of implementation, many of them actually fail to, or they are not having that kind of a sense to actually remember all these things throughout their period of service or whatever they do.
Right.
Because we are talking of inclusivity, of accessibility in every aspect of life. So now it's high time that we talk of empathy engineering in people. So through different exercises, say I blindfold everyone in my office and then ask them to sit for a cup of tea, and I maybe tie one of your hand and ask you to go and brush your teeth.
Wow.
So a lot of such exercises we are trying to devise. So officials need to be empathized now. So sensitization and awareness has gone. So now it's time that we start empathy building exercises from school level itself.
In fact, ever since Digital India was launched over 7 years ago, India has made rapid strides in going digital. Using internet is a critical aspect of a successful life today. So there are a lot of things like you have the web content accessibility guidelines for ensuring accessibility for persons with disabilities. What has the government done to enable internet usage among persons with disability while ensuring cyber security? And in fact, you mentioned something called the UDID card, which is very interesting. So please also cover that again in your answer.
First, I'll cover the UDID part only.
Right.
We realized that every district, every state had a different format of giving the disability certification. And the format would be different. The assessment criteria would differ sometime. And when the person moves from one district to another district, the person moves from one state to another state, normally benefits concession tracking becomes very difficult. So this government came up with this device. So everything now is centralized. You can apply online. Online, your application will be accepted, and the revenue department, the social welfare department. And
Dr. Das, can you spell out the website for people who might want to apply for this? Can you spell out the website, please?
UDID is enough. The moment you
So you just type UDID in Google and you'll be...
Automatically it will come out. Once they are registered, then automatically we'll take their mobile numbers, and through SMS or through calls, the district authorities will connect to them. And even if you had an old certificate, that is also going to be redone. New certificate can be done again, different categories. And once there are categories of, say, provisional certificate, permanent certificate, temporary certificate, all these things are right now in place. Only little bit of more awareness through programs as you are taking up today maybe will help us reach a lot more. Now coming to the web accessibility part, Government of India is continuously and constantly writing and giving sort of office orders to different organizations, be it private, PSUs or government bodies, to make their website accessible. We are striving hard, getting books in the audio format, getting books in DAISY format, getting books in Braille format, and also the concept of e-publication has come. Right now, I'm into a project with National Book Trust. We are conversing with them to have all their books e-publication segment and audio segment and Braille segment. These are new initiatives. Also, the EDIP scheme is now covering, say, mobile phone. Those are devised and uploaded with all the softwares required. We are providing, say, people depending on educational scholarship, we are giving them laptop. Those are sort of downloaded with all the softwares required. There is an emphasis now on digital empowerment, especially post-COVID we realized, like my school, the blind school, is now India's almost open category top schools in India only because of this revolution that we have brought in. Digital monitoring, online teaching, and use of mobiles, use of laptop, and all those stuff. I think the visual disability communities, by and large, is adopting digital revolution very well, sir.
Okay, you mentioned COVID, Dr. Das. Things like insurance, health insurance, and even life insurance is more difficult for those with disabilities to obtain. So are there any developments in this field by the government?
We had actually two programs of insurance. Those were secluded earlier. One was from the National Trust, one was from our ministry itself. But now we are trying to get into the mainstream insurance things and coming up with policies and programs which in future persons with disability will be able to access the normal insurance, health insurance. Currently we have these two, but we are not satisfied with these two and the coverage of these two. So now Ayushman Bharat and other regular insurance policies we are trying to attract now.
Dr. Das, on International Day of Persons with Disability, thank you so much for joining us on this program on All India Radio.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you, sir.
You are listening to a special discussion on International Day of Persons with Disabilities, government initiatives for the empowerment and welfare of persons with disabilities. The participants were Dr. Himanshu Das, Director, National Institute for Empowerment of Persons with Visual Disability, NIE PVD, and V. Ravi Kumar, AIR Correspondent. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on your YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.